Hi, my name's Ben and this is another episode in my mission to uncover what makes South Canterbury not just an amazing place to visit, but an incredible place to live, work and build a business. So let's figure out why this place is so special. From thriving local businesses to hidden community gems, I'm sitting down with the people who make this region tick. Entrepreneurs, creatives, and everyday legends who call South Canterbury home. Today, we are interviewing Shane Brookland, the CEO of Scarlett Hydraulic Technology.
Yeah, the other day we had our gentleman in England was uncomfortable in the accommodation he's in because someone was trying to break into the room in the middle of the night. And I remember a lady talking through the day of a life of a child with multiple sclerosis and what that looked like. One of my guys I was looking at pulling out of Mexico when the drug cartels were playing up, and he was effectively an armed escort to and from work site each day.
I'm excited for this one, so let's get on and get started. Great to be speaking with you today. In researching you, I've gained a lot of respect for you even before meeting. You know, you do a lot in the community, especially with the cycleways around here. This business is an amazing business and your rise to becoming a CEO here is quite inspirational. So really excited to meet you, really excited to talk about the business and yourself.
Okay.
Now, before we begin, I just want to read some facts that I found out about you. So you became the CEO of Scarlett Hydraulics in January 2009.
Yep.
On top of your impressive career history, you have also volunteered for Land and Search and Rescue for 18 years, 5 of which you were the team leader there.
Mm-hmm.
You were the chairperson for the Central South Island Charity Bike Ride for 5 years and a committee member for the Central Trails Trust. You like your bikes?
Do like bikes.
That's good. And we'll get to that a bit later in the interview.
Cool.
But first, can you tell me a bit about your personal background?
So my background, I guess I was born locally, Temuka guy. Family came off farm, but I guess we never had an easy run into life. Dad was a freezing worker. Mum worked hard. Family of 3 kids, reasonably sporty, involved in scouts and all that sort of wholesome stuff. So I guess family morals and ethics came a fair way into the program, with a bit of a work hard and you'll go somewhere in this world basis to it. So came through Temuka High School back in the good old days, 500 plus kids, and had a great life. And formed some really close friendships with some of those guys. They're still around South Canterbury. And from there, chose a path where I decided I also had ability to go to university. It wasn't the path I was going to take. So my senior master, Hodge Stafford, was an interesting rooster. And we'll just say that I end up in the senior master's office for a constructive feedback chat along the lines of you're probably destined for other things than finishing this year and being a pain in the backside. So I went out door knocking and came across Scarlett Hydraulics as one of the opportunities, and convinced the then owner, Paul, to take me on and give me an opportunity in the business as a floor sweeper, smoko getter, and whatever else was in between. So that's sort of how the formative years were done, but always had a plan of, I was into sales. I liked selling and engaging with people to go somewhere in life. So that was always the style that got me there. I just didn't necessarily know the path at the start. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the, you know, like always a hard-working family, go-getter family, you know, try and work for the future.
Yep.
Were there any key moments in your life regarding to that or anything else that formed you into the person you are today or gave you the values that you have today?
The family's always had a really strong family nucleus, and that's carried on even with my sons now. And yeah, family values are really high, and that's sort of the yardstick that everything goes by. So there's no bluster in our world. You call a spade, sometimes it was called a shovel. If you didn't perform, that wasn't good enough. So ultimately you got down and did the work you need to do. So that's ultimately where it came from. I guess the opportunity came relatively early on in the career where I realised that in this industry I was a bit of a novelty, where I was a young fella going somewhere, and there was a lot of grey hairs in the businesses around the countryside. So I'd go to conference and I'd be 20, 30 years younger than everybody else. So that sort of told me there was a pretty good path out there for me.
And I guess that goes to show with the fact that, you know, you've worked for Scarlett Hydraulics now for 32 years, is that right?
Next month will be 32 years.
Wow, so 32 years, and you're not that old, so obviously you got into it nice and young.
Depends on definition. I started when I was 17, so yeah, I'll be I'll be 50 later this year, but yeah, this is my first job.
And that's incredible. Now, when you started, did you intend on staying? Was that always the goal, or has that just happened over time that you progressed?
To be honest, when I first started, I was just happy to have a job, and a good job for a good company. The values around Scarlett, and I guess Scarlett's twofold at that stage, where BJ Scarlett's were involved as well. So BJ Scarlett Engineering and Scarlett Hydraulics. And the three owners, which is Ian, Alistair and Paul, they're just terrific guys. So ultimately I got called into the culture, and then I didn't really feel that there was any need to leave that culture. So and now I'm the caretaker of that culture for Scarlett Hydraulics. So that's part of the drive and motivation as well.
Yeah, and what a privilege, right? To come into a workplace and feel valued and like you're part of a team, to now be part of, bestowing that on people in this business that work for you. That's quite incredible.
Yeah, that's where the privilege comes from, where it's all about, this isn't a one-person business, and it never will be. With 30-odd people, everyone does their part to make the wheels go round. So it's a pretty cool scenario to be able to see the guys develop and come up with some pretty clever solutions.
Yeah. Now, you talk about culture and how that was what caused you to stay here.
Yep.
Was there a moment where you were like, I see that culture, I want to be part of that culture forever? Or was it just over time, it was little moments that built up?
Before we moved to this site, we were around in Home Glen Street. And on site, there were probably 40 to 50 guys. So I guess ultimately there was quite a big family feel to the way that ran. But yeah, along the way, I've been approached by some other companies to see if I'd be interested in shifting hats or changing the shirt. But the reality is the culture was the draw card, and the opportunity of what we do for our customers is pretty high on the list.
Yeah. You've got 30 team members roughly, is that right?
That's about our headcount.
Yeah. So quite a large company, comes with its challenges, not just for team members, but also in terms of when times get tough economically, you're having to care for those people when maybe there's not a lot of work coming in.
Yep.
You must have faced some challenges in the time that you either worked here or were CEO here. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those challenges and how you have overcome them?
The toughest challenge that we went through, especially in line of looking after our team, is through COVID, where we effectively shut the business down and had minimal guys on site. As a result of that, at the end, it became unsustainable to carry the full staff count. So during that, we let a few people go, 3 or 4. And it's fair to say that's the hardest thing I've done in this business. I know these people, I know who their families are, and unfortunately, when you sit in the top swivelly seat, you get to make the tough calls, and yeah, those calls are pretty tough. And
I said before that this is a relatively big company, but 30 isn't big enough to not know those people. So they're not just numbers for you either.
No. There was tears shed those days.
Yeah.
And that was just an unfortunate scenario. The business had to continue on, and unfortunately some decisions had to be made. So we did as gracefully as we could, but I'm sure if you sat on the other side of that table, it probably wasn't enjoyable either. Yeah,
well, I appreciate you being forthcoming about that. Like, it's hard to be vulnerable about those really hard times as a CEO. So
unfortunately, you asked the hard question.
Now, onto the products that you deliver.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a little bit about what you do through my research, but the first question I'd have is, do you just deliver products here in New Zealand, or do you...
No, right now I've got a gentleman over in England doing an install for us. So we've built that component here. We've factory tested it, and then we ship it to site, and then we fly out, and he's doing the final hookup at the moment. So in the next week or so, that job should be finished. So we've had jobs in America, England, recently been in Australia. We've got more in Australia later this year. And we've got some equipment that we build and manufacture here that gets shipped to Australia, and then we'll do a final run-up over there. So depends on the industry we're playing with. We've got a company in the forestry space. They deliver worldwide, but we deliver their product domestically, and a fair bit of exposure into power stations, fishing fleets, transport, and then other industrial customers around New Zealand. So it's a pretty diverse range of what we do.
Business on a global scale. I mean, for me, I guess, I'm at the beginning of my business ownership journey. Sounds very scary to me.
That's a good way to put it.
So it's scary? It doesn't get less scary?
I guess experience gives you the confidence that you've done it before, so you know a wee bit more about the risks. But yeah, the other day our gentleman in England was uncomfortable in the accommodation he's in because someone was trying to break into the room in the middle of the night. So we had to scramble. Fortunately, my service manager took care of that. But he had to find new accommodation, shift him in the middle of the night, etc. We've got a significant amount of cost attached to that because we've paid for 2 accommodations now, etc. So we've had one of my guys, I was looking at pulling out of Mexico when the drug cartels were playing up, and he was effectively an armed escort to and from work site each day. So yeah, there's some challenges to go with that, and whenever you're far from home, it gets more interesting, or challenging is probably the right way, and it's tough for the guy doing it.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose with that comes, there's different legislations, different regulations.
Different insurance, and everything else that goes with that. Some countries you'd think are better at health and safety than we are, and they're not. And some countries you don't know if they are, and they're more stringent, etc. So, compliance is an interesting one where what we do in New Zealand doesn't necessarily cross over on all borders. So some days we have to retrain and do some other stuff as well.
Yeah. So we've talked about where Scarlett Hydraulics delivers products. Can you tell me a bit about what you deliver?
Okay. So ultimately, we look to resolve our customers' issues. So be it if it's fishing boats coming in with a problem, we'll deal with that. We do a lot of upgrade work for the power industry, where quite a lot of stuff was built 1950s, and it's all piecemeal, etc. Now we put together a package that's turnkey, tested with redundancy, with new tech and monitoring, so they can either monitor it from remotely, or turn it on off remotely, or default to the redundancy aspect. Or at the moment, we've just finished testing yesterday for a West Coast installation where they've got a high volume dead ship scenario. So with no power, we can still open and close gates. And we've got another one of those coming up soon. So ultimately, we spend a fair bit of time understanding the customer's requirement and their scope, building that into our spec, our design, then we go through and take it to the delivery stage.
Yeah, and I guess you're talking about all these things. I see this, we've got this, is it circuitry?
Circuit, yeah, it's a circuit.
I'm going to lift it up just so we can show the camera for a second real quick. But what are we looking at here? If you look at this...
So ultimately there's a machine in the freezing works industry, but it's got a lot of inbuilt safety aspect into this, because ultimately it's a pelt pulling device, so it takes the skin off an animal in a cage area, but it's got stored energy, it's very fast, etc. So there's a whole lot of things that we do to make it functional yet safe. So we're actually doing a training session on this in the not so distant future. Just as we upskill our guys, we keep on, as we deliver something clever, we tend to put it back through the group just to round it out so the knowledge gets shared.
Yeah, wow. That's so fascinating. I feel like you've just scratched the surface to explain
100%.
it to me, but there's probably so many layers deeper that I wouldn't understand without all of the technical knowledge. It's incredible.
Yeah, there's a bit going on in what we do for sure.
Yeah. So you've talked about some of the challenges.
Yep.
We've talked about, some of the culture. What have been your biggest successes that you've seen in this industry, in this company, throughout the time that you've worked here and,
The thing that we really accept and take pride in is we get a longevity of staff that speaks to some of what we're doing is really well received and respected by the team ultimately. And the team look after our customers look after the business. So we've got a fair few staff in that 10 plus year, 20 plus year duration with the business. So naturally we've got some attrition, and we've got an average head count, an average time of service, but to get people that have chosen to stay with Scarlett's for 10, 15, 20 years, in my case topside of 30, speaks to we enjoy dealing with each other and solving our customers' problems. So that's a pretty big tick in my box, to be honest.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And it probably makes you quite proud to, represent a company that embodies that, but also you've helped to build, that embodiment of longevity of staff, of wanting to keep your clients happy.
Yeah.
Speaking of the company, I know that you mentioned, I saw that down there, that frame. Scarlett Hydraulics, what is that down there? That was a frame of, if you can bring it up, I'd love to.
So that there is the first advert in April 1984, when Paul started up the company with Ian Alistair. So
yeah.
Paul Bowman joined the company, literally did an ad in the paper, and we went from a one-man business into what we are today. So
wow.
Just a bit of a tick back to the good old days.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing, going back to saying about, being proud of the business, like to come from, like you say, a one-man band,
Yep.
ad in the paper, and just growing over time. Because when was that, sorry, again?
1984.
1984. So from 1984 to now.
40 years.
What a big change, right?
That's huge. And hats off to Paul having the confidence to actually kick this off and give everybody involved an opportunity from that day forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it's big. It's massive.
It's huge.
Yeah. So obviously you're proud of the work you do. I can see that it's seeping out of the way you talk about this place. Now you must be proud of some other stuff. We talked about some of the volunteer work that you've done. Do you want to tell us a bit of that?
So 16 years ago, I did my first ever charity bike ride. My wife was involved with Plunket, so I guess we've always been participants in the community rather than takers from the community. Yeah. So I got volunteered as a rider for Plunket for a fundraising event, which I didn't quite understand. So I was a road racer, and I thought I was in for a 3-day holiday around the South Island Lakes riding my bike, which is effectively what I did, and it was great. I got to the final evening, and they have an aftermatch type function, and the recipient groups talked to what this charity ride and the fundraising coming out of it meant. And I suddenly realised that I'd actually been a bit of an egotistical cyclist, hadn't participated as hard as I should have. And I remember a lady talking through the day of a life of a child with multiple sclerosis and what that looked like. So I've since learned 15 odd years running that there's normally tears involved at the charity ride recipients discussion. And I decided then I should actually come back and try harder and make more money. So came back with a renewed sense of interest, ended up joining the committee, and I guess the rest is a bit of a history lesson, but I think we're 21 years in, so I didn't do the first few events. The organisation has donated back $2.6 million to the South Canterbury community. Every dollar in is given back out, so that there is not a cut for anything. So every rider pays an entry fee, and that fully funds everything. And the committee's pretty frugal, so they actually run at a profit or a surplus, and then they donate that back into the charities as well. So there is no other event like that around. We tested ourselves in the Business Excellence Awards with the South Canterbury Chamber and won that. I can still remember the CEO of the Auckland Chamber asking if it was real what we were saying, because he couldn't understand how that would ever work anywhere. But yeah, we steal people, we steal vehicles, product, all sorts of stuff to make it work. But it's a pretty special event, and it definitely speaks to what South Canterbury's about. So yeah, South Canterbury gets right in behind that sort of thing.
And the charity bike ride, because it's quite a big event, it's really easy for charity, and it's not charity's fault, but in charitable events over time, as things grow, it can be really easy for those margins to slip. You know, the margins get bigger, and then more cost is soaked up in that. So amazing that intentionally you guys are making sure that those margins are as thin as possible, so that as much money can go back to the community as possible.
The entry fee or the cost to run the ride has gone up. Yeah. But the reality is, seeing we hold the donated funds completely separate to the cost of the event, the charities don't have any impact on that. So yeah, it's a cool story.
That is very cool. Now, still on cycling, you helped to set up Cycleway. Yeah,
so one of the guys that was involved in the charity bike ride somehow nominated me to give the Trails Trust a bit of a hand. And he felt I'd be handy on the fundraising side of life. So I got a phone call, must be 3-ish years ago, as they were setting up the committee, and I was asked to join the committee. So the Central South Island Trails, its primary focus is to get from Timaru up to Tekapo and join the alternate side of the Alps to Ocean. We're about half built so far. And there's a piece of trail that we're working on at the moment. So as funding comes on board, we're going to finish this trail, which is 100 odd kilometres. But yeah, at the moment we're built complete to point. We've got a piece fairly to Kimble, and then we've got Tekapo down to Dog Kennel Corner. So yeah, we've done a pretty good job so far. But yeah, if anyone's got a spare $1 million kicking around and feels like it, they can quite happily get in touch, and we'll give them a hand to put their name on a piece of trail. Timaru District Council's been exceptional. And MB was really good. It's just in the current market, funding of that stuff and transit, or Waka Kaitohi have got some challenges on their hands. So we're in a planning and ready to build stage. We just need some more cash on board. So
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, in the foreseeable future, that'll be completed, I can see it.
What an amazing project to be part of.
It's cool. It's different. Where charity ride it's a good, warm, fuzzy feeling. The trail is something that's a bit interesting, where ultimately we build it and pay for it and then give it back to the local community. So by doing it, I can now drive up towards Tekapo and see a piece of trail that I go, oh, I remember when we were planning this. And the bits that aren't built, we're looking at where will the trail run through here and how will that work. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about your upbringing a little bit earlier in the interview.
Yep.
Did you grow up in South Canterbury or?
Yep. Yeah, so I was based in Temuka. Ultimately, the family was Temuka based, so always been a South Canterbury guy.
Being born and raised here, you'll have seen a lot of the region and how it functions, especially working in a national and a global market. You'll see how markets work all across New Zealand and the world. What would you say the advantages of doing business in South Canterbury are?
Ultimately, South Canterbury is a connected place where we're big enough that we can punch reasonably hard, but at the same time, we're small enough that you actually know the majority of the business owners and the players in the market. So if Scarlett needs a hand, I know who I'll ring and what I'll be able to get out of that. If somebody in the market needs a hand, they'll know they can ring me or someone in the business and get what they require out of it. So that locally connected aspect it speaks volumes, and it's surprising what gets done in a hurry because everybody knows who can do what and who's got what skill around them or what equipment around them to get the result they're looking for. So it's you're a bit anonymous in a big market some days, where that's not the case in South Canterbury.
Definitely, and I can speak to that as well. Just even organising these interviews, all the people that have come forward to help connect me with different people and stuff. Like, obviously, we didn't know each other before this interview, so
no,
it's really cool, and also cool to see that people are willing to do these interviews. These interviews that are promoting South Canterbury and our region. It really shows that people that are here are proud to be here.
Oh, heck yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this interview is a testament to what you're saying about it being a connected place.
Yeah.
So would you recommend South Canterbury to other business owners?
Yeah, for sure. It's an easy place to do business. I wouldn't say it's a boom market where I deal with people all over the countryside, so I hear great stories about this big growth that happens in the North Island, but then not so long after you hear about the big nosedive that the North Island market's happening, where South Canterbury seems to be a relatively well-grounded market. So you're probably not going to get rich overnight, but you're probably not going to go broke overnight either. So
Stable
is a good way of putting it, and probably more positive and maybe a wee bit recession-proof in comparison to some of the other markets.
Yeah, definitely. And how about not everyone that's going to come to South Canterbury is going to own a business. What about just a regular old family or, a young person that wants to settle in? Like, how does that look?
Ultimately, I live in South Canterbury for the lifestyle that it affords. The access to the housing market's pretty good. Rentals is relatively good. I won't say it's easy all the time, but it's probably more affordable than some places. But the lifestyle and what the local councils have been doing, I guess I'll give a plug to the cycle trail, but Seabay and the local area, there's a fair bit going on that is family orientated but not expensive that goes with it. So I guess you don't have to go to a mall or something to find entertainment. South Canterbury's got this natural aspect to it where if you want to go see the Canterbury Plains, walk up Little Mount Peel, or we've got a whole bunch of lakes sitting up in Mackenzie, or I ski at Dobson occasionally, Round Hill and Nohow, etc. So there's a whole lot of lifestyle choices that are affordable and reachable. So that's the tick for me.
Yeah. Now, you talked about the fact that it clicked for you that Scarlett hydraulic technology was the place to work. Was there a specific time in your life where it clicked that you never wanted to leave South Canterbury?
I don't think that's been a conscious decision. My wife and I now own the majority of the company, so I guess it's foreseeable I'm going to finish my career at Scarlett Hydraulics as well. But yeah, we've got a branch in Christchurch, so I've had an opportunity to live in Christchurch instead of here, but South Canterbury ticks a fair few boxes in terms of what we're looking for. I like riding bikes, and there's a fairly strong community of people and places to go ride bikes, and the lifestyle's relaxed enough, in my opinion. So yeah, I think it works well.
Yeah. Now, I'll still ask this question. I feel like I might know the answer based on what you're talking about you're doing, but what do you like spending your downtime doing in South Canterbury?
So if I can, I get to the Mackenzie. We've got a house up there. I get a fairly good kick out of towing kids in the summer behind the boat, water skiing, biscuiting, kneeboarding, etc. We do a bit of fishing. I do a bit of hunting. I like riding bikes. I've recently rode the length of New Zealand, so did Tour Aotearoa with a couple of my mates, and we're now building towards doing Tour Divide, which is Canada to Mexico. So I do long distance bike packing I try to race, but I'm not as fast as I used to be. I play a bit of golf. So ultimately, if I can put my phone and computer down and get outdoors is probably the tick that I'm looking for.
Yeah, incredible. Now, you've been in the region for a long time. I shouldn't say too long. I don't want to make you sound too old.
One minute I'm not old, next minute I'm a long time.
Next minute it's been a long time.
Yeah.
No. You must have seen some changes in the region over time.
Yep, for sure. I think as a whole, Timaru's probably pulled its socks up a wee bit. I know a lot of people knock the council, and yeah, I'm a ratepayer, so I get rates going up, etc. Isn't a lot of fun. But I think if you look at the environments, and I'm small town Temuka, the domain's been done up. They've put paths and they've beautified the place a wee bit. Timaru's the same at Sea Bay. It's a pretty cool place. So I think ultimately all of these areas are actually getting a bit of a lift in terms of livability and engagement with the general population. So yeah, I think in general it's actually a good place, and it's continuing to go the right way.
And what's your vision for the future of South Canterbury?
That's a big question. I think South Canterbury is going to remain a family-friendly environment. So I think it's reasonably laid back. People still care about people in South Canterbury, which some bigger areas don't necessarily get. So I'd like to see that continue, and embrace the outdoor nature of what we do and how we do it.
It's funny that you say that. My friends and I, when we go to a place like Auckland or Wellington, sometimes we'll purposefully look at people and smile to see if they smile back.
Yeah.
And in a place like Timaru, they do. But in a place, that's more condensed, and I won't use just Auckland or Wellington.
No, it's a size and scale game.
Yeah. In a place that's more condensed, you definitely feel that there's less of that community, environment where people are friendly and.
I'm probably guilty of stereotyping, but I've got a saying that the further south you go, the friendlier the people get. So.
But does that mean I'm more friendly than someone from Temuka, or?
I'd say.
Oh, stop it! That's so good. Now, if someone was thinking of moving here, what would you tell them? They're looking on Trade Me, they see a rental, they see a house. Should I move? Should I not?
Ultimately, it comes down to what your motivation is. If you want a family-friendly environment, 100%. If you want a bustling metropolis, you may struggle to find all aspects of that. However, we're being smacked between Dunedin, Christchurch, and Queenstown, and Wanaka, etc. is not far away. So if you want hustle and bustle and the associated dramas that go with that, feel free to use this as a base and drive into it, realise why you don't like it and come back out. So
that's so good.
There's some really good businesses, some great opportunities, but it's more a stable environment than some other organisations may find. So yeah, I'd advocate that South Canterbury is a great place to live.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, we're almost at the end of our interview, but to finish, I've got 2 final questions.
Okay.
Number 1, why should a business join the South Canterbury Chamber of Commerce?
So we've been a member of the Chamber for, I'll say 20 plus years, because I don't know the number. We use the Chamber for advocacy, so we're doing a wee bit with immigration at the moment, and we're getting some support out of that. We've done a lot of health and safety training, and some of my management training's been through the Chamber as well, so that's particularly good. But the other side of it is they host a good networking aspect. We're fortunate enough to have won some business awards, environmental, technological, and sustainability, etc. And I think they just do a good job of bringing the business network together. So yeah, I think it's a good value for money proposition.
That's good. Slightly selfish, last question. As a young entrepreneur and leader, I'm just getting started in my business ownership journey. What's one piece of advice that you'd give me to help me?
The thing that's stuck with me is there's only a certain amount of things in your area of influence. So there's this big wide world around me. I only worry about the stuff that I can influence. The stuff outside there, I have to just roll with the punches and deal with it as it comes to me. The other side of that is no one person knows everything. So I seek out wise counsel either from internal or external around my business, depending on what I'm looking for. So be bold, roll with it.
Thank you so much, Shane. Appreciate your time.
No
it's great to do this interview.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Was that rough enough?
That's a wrap. Yeah, it's good.